There's been a lot of action in the rates market. We've seen the 10-year note come in, jump up on Thursday. We've seen mortgage rates come below 7, now tick up. I just got to know what is going on in the mortgage market. We're going to talk to Dustin and Jonathan from Convoy Home Loans. Guys, what's going on today? It seems like it's changing every day.
Yeah, never a dull moment in the mortgage industry, that's for sure.
Yeah, no doubt. Yeah, I don't know if you guys saw it. I'm sure you have, but we had a very strong flash reading on manufacturing and services that has caused at least the 10-year note to jump. I'm guessing mortgage rates will move up a little bit by the end of the day. I don't know if you've seen any of that already.
Yeah, we have started last night actually. But
Okay.
I think that again, we kind of talk about this every week and people freak out, but we're still in that rectangle, right? That we were
That
talking
range.
about. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like for us, it's kind of like a daily basis thing now, like we know. But the more that clients know, the more that listeners know, the better, right? This is not
Yeah.
the time to freak out that it's going up high. This is not the time to freak out that it's going down lower. Like everything is well within that rectangular range that
Yep.
we've been talking about. And we're just sitting in there. So it's in fact, I think it's a good thing, right? This is kind of like what we were talking about, what you wanted, and what we
Yeah.
wanted is like rates to stay higher longer. It's we're staying in that. If we stay in this rectangle, I think till the remainder of the year, I think the market has a really good chance of stabilizing.
Oh, I agree with that 100%. I've been almost begging for rates to I would love rates to stay between 7 and 7.5. I think getting below 6 or below 7, excuse me, anything with a 6 on it could unlock marginal demand. Certainly, you get to 6.5, game's over. But yeah, I would like nothing better than just stay in this range to the end of the year. Let inventory build, let motivation build. Let's find out who wants to sell versus needs to sell. All of this would be a good thing in my book.
Yeah, uh, as John mentioned, and as we have both mentioned probably for the last 9 months, this is what we want. The market can't survive, and we're never going to fix this problem if we have the roller coaster rides that we keep having. Staying in that range of 7 to 7.5 is what we do need. And
Yeah.
I know it sounds crazy coming from us that we want rates higher for longer, being in the mortgage industry and making money off of, selling mortgages. And obviously, you can sell a lot more mortgages when they are at
Yeah.
6 or 5 or 4.
Yeah. No, I think it just shows that Convoy's in for the long term, not some short term thing. And again, that's why you went from number 6 to number 2 in the origination. So congratulations again for that. I want to hit on something real quick. Um, I saw that refi demand was up. I think it was up 7% week on week and 17% year on year. I'm curious, in your guys' book of business, is this just rate and term refis becoming more interesting, or are we seeing more and more people go cash out refis? I'm just curious.
For us, obviously, refis have been the big part of our business still, right across the board, especially with the seconds and just
Hmm.
refinances in general. I think seconds fit into that range as well for the refi aspect, right? They're considering a refi,
Sure.
but it's mostly cash out that we've been doing.
Hmm.
Obviously, we have the sprinkle and still people flowing in for people getting out of hard money or stuff like that that they need a rate and term refi into. But
Right.
as a cash out has been the majority of our refinancing demand, and it has gone up obviously because I think people are kind of fed up with waiting for rates to get lower,
Yeah.
right? And they're like, if they bought in the last 3 year or 2 years, the rate's sitting somewhere in the five, maybe six, right, range. And if they're sitting in the 5 to 6 range and they want to pull out 100 grand in equity and their loan amount's only like 100, right? It's like it's not a bad idea to just refi and pull that out instead of pulling a second because of the blended
Sure.
rate average that we've talked about, right? So it's
Yeah.
like, yeah,
Yeah, people really need to understand the blended rate average because, again, as I've seen repeatedly from clients in my group when they talk about convoys, you guys will listen, and sometimes you'll recommend cash out, sometimes you'll recommend a second, and it's all about that blended rate. So we'll hit this again at the end, but let's hit it right now. If somebody wanted to talk about blended rate and what's right for them, how would they reach out to Convoy?
go to convoyhomeloans.com and let us know you came from ORAD.
Very, very cool. We'll hit that again at the end, but I just thought it was important to hit there. The next thing I want to talk about is Jamie Dimon. I don't know if you guys caught this, but it looks like Jamie Dimon is being very vocal. First and foremost, earlier in the week, he let it be known that retirement is closer than others expect, which really means in my book, he's going to really start telling everybody what he thinks because he just doesn't care, right? He's already richy rich, which is going to be interesting because just yesterday he talked about stagflation being the worst possible outcome and more likely than possible. And also a hard landing is out there. So I don't know if you caught that speech from Jamie Dimon, but given you guys are in the mortgage and in the lending industry, I'm sure Jamie Dimon is somebody you guys look up to or at least follow.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't see that most recent, I think, what'd you say, yesterday,
Correct.
it came out, but, Jamie Dimon is obviously somebody that, makes himself very well aware in the mortgage industry for people that are, not even have to be working in the mortgage industry, but just following it as the consumer. I think he has, some points that I can agree with, but to be honest with you, most of the times I'm not in agreement, with him.
Very cool.
But that's just my spiel if we're talking about Jamie Dimon here.
Oh, that's great. I love it. I love those things. So now let's get into what's proven to be a pretty common loan product. And you guys are going to give us some examples. We're going to talk about somebody buying a fourplex, wanting to put as an investment. So this is not a house hack, as an investment. And they're going to want to put 20% down. In today's world, you likely could get a conventional loan or a DSCR loan. And I don't think the average person knows just how competitive the DSCR loan is, especially at 20% down. So what do you guys got?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 20% down is actually 5% less than you could put down on a conventional investment, right? So it already in that field gives you a little leveraging boost. So
Correct.
the example that I've given to a lot of clients is this. You're buying a house, let's say in that's worth 100 to 200 to maybe even 300,000, right?
Okay.
That's a fourplex, right? 5% is of, 100, 200, 300 is anywhere between 5 to 15 grand, right?
Mhm. Yep.
That is essentially the margin that you get to play with of whether you want to put down into the equity of the house immediately, which means it's locked up, right, for at least a certain period of time,
Mhm.
or if you can find a better use for that 5 to 15,000, you can take that and put it somewhere else to
Mm.
generate more, revenue. Now, the only reason I bring up that 5% in my examples is because everyone thinks conventional loan, lower rate, I'm going to get a
Mm.
lower rate at 75%. I want to go that route. But DSCR rates, as we've kind of spoken about previously, are pretty much about the same, right?
Mhm.
But the added bonus of being able to put down 5% less allows you to have control over that capital. And essentially, the way that I present it to a lot of clients and talk to them is you're essentially giving yourself almost a 0% loan for the $5 to $15,000 that you could deploy elsewhere for an
Right.
extra payment of like maybe a couple $100, because that $100 to $300,000 loan amount range is where that 5% really doesn't make that much of a difference on the payment,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Maybe $200 at most, 250 at most, right? So
Mm.
if that's the case, right, you're essentially can calculate out how long of a loan you're giving yourself for the extra cash that you get to keep in your pocket rather than putting it into the house. And the
No, I think
reason
that
that's so, yeah,
I think that's an interesting way to look at it because again, if you really are paying attention to the market today, there's a lot of people there are a lot of people buying fourplexes for 2 and 300 grand in the Midwest, in the South. And one of the things that we have seen clearly is the clean properties are going quickly above asking. Where people are finding value, and frankly, I'm getting notes almost every day now about disrespectful offers being accepted. Those are gonna be the fourplexes that need work. So in your example, do you drain your capital the extra 5% to put into it to get conventional? Or if you're buying not quite a dump, but, something that needs some love, do you save that 5% and use that as capital for make ready? Because again, on my spreadsheet that I teach in my course, down payment, closing cost, make ready, it's all there. But the power is that extra 5% is not locked up in equity. It's being used for day one activities. So I think there's a lot of power, especially if you're buying something distressed or a little needs work, you're buying below market, use that 5% for the make ready. I think that makes perfect sense. And then, oh, by the way, the value goes up because you've had value add.
Yeah, I mean, you nailed it right on the head. And I think John's example was a perfect analogy in terms of weighing the pros and cons of having that extra 5%. I kind of do something a little bit similar. Just, if you can use that 5%, whether it's 5, 10, or 15,000, and you can make more monthly than the $200 difference in the monthly payment, then it's a no-brainer, right?
Right.
And the biggest add is the fact that conventional, you got to put 25% down on a 4 unit. DSCR, you got to put minimum 20, some cases 15 that I don't want to get into right now. But, the 20% down here in LA on a 2 million, if you're lucky, right? That's a big deal with the 5%, not,
Yeah.
5 to 10K. And those are the ones that we're running across. And then, ultimately, like, the rates are pretty darn solid in terms of, I think we've both put in 3 or 4 just this week with 20 down at 7.75 on the
Wow.
fourplex. So these aren't like,
These are
really
investment
bad
loans.
rates for doing that. Yeah.
No, that's actually a really good rate because I'm actually hearing investors get something with 8s on them. So again,
Yeah.
if you're getting a fourplex, saving the 5% so you can use it elsewhere, like make ready. Yeah, the math is pretty simple. I think you're right. I think that's a real conversation an investor or potential buyer has. And they need to talk to experienced guys like you because you're going to tell them. You're going to be like, in your situation, the delta is X. Maybe put it down. And maybe this other situation, it's not. But you guys are going to run the scenarios and help people understand that, correct?
Absolutely. And I mean, like you said, 775, 20% down is great. But at the same time, if you're buying something and we're like, hey, you actually would probably want to put an extra 5% down at
Yeah.
25% right now, everything's like mid to low to high 6 on DSCR still. Right. So
Wow.
at that point, it's like, what's the reason to
Yeah.
go conventional? Unless it's like a qualification, you're very cost sensitive and you have to have
Right.
the conventional loan, right? At that point, obviously, then DSCR is not going to be on the table anyways for you. But if you are an investor, like an actual investor, and you're self-employed and you have a bunch of complex tax returns or no tax returns at all, this is going to be the best route to do it. And you are not losing anything by going this route versus going conventional at this point.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Guys, if somebody wanted to reach out, look at the scenarios of buying a fourplex with 20 or 25% down, how would they do that?
Go to convoyhomeloans.com and let us know you came from ORAD.
Folks, you got to tell them you came from ORAT. I'm not kidding. If you don't do that, you're going to get stuck in a queue, and nobody wants to be in a queue. Get these guys working, helping, speaking with you. Guys, you're amazing. Thanks. Keep it up.
Thank you.
It's fine.
Mhm.